You may have seen this information going around that people are claiming that the GATE program is something that they're remembering and recalling being a part of. This is the Gifted and Talented Education Program, particularly back in the 80s, 90s. It's, I think, still around in some jurisdictions. And I was in the GATE program, so I thought I'd give my assessment of it because there's some of these kind of goofball boomer podcasts that are blowing this out of proportion that push a lot of the alien nonsense, and they're talking about this as some sort of like vast MK Ultra experiment, which I think is a bunch of nonsense. I can recount most of what I recall unless I was put under hypnosis and my alternate memories are suppressed and I don't exactly recall all the programming that they did to me. I'm kidding. But there are some dark sides to that project, and I'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to mention the fact that it's not impossible, implausible that there have been these kinds of programs where they did test people, experiment with people, and so forth. People have heard, I'm sure, of MK Ultra, and there's dozens of projects that MK Ultra utilized as a kind of an umbrella term for universities, for psychiatric institutions, prisons, the military, doing a wide range of research, experimentation, everything from biometrics to LSD and more. And hypnosis played a part. And we've covered this book in my Elite Books series before, the Dr. John C. Lilly book, Programming and Metaprogramming in the Human Biocomputer. And towards the end of the book, he describes how he claims that he was able to sort of re-imprint and reprogram young people with certain techniques. That's the last summary chapter. It's kind of an appendix at the end of the book. If you're curious, you can look it up for yourself. And he was a member of the deep state, you could say. He was part of the MK Ultra projects. He worked on putting things in monkey brains. So he was a weird dude, but he was pretty open about what he was involved in. People like Kinsey were doing similar types of things. I can't really talk about what he did, but you can guess what that might be. But none of that happened. Nobody touched my butt during any of these GATE program projects or whatever. But what I recall is that when I was put into this program, initially I was at a elementary school that was kind of economically challenged, shall we say. And I was removed from that, and I did have to do a bunch of tests. I don't recall everything about the test, but it wasn't anything nefarious. I did have to put on like headphones, and you probably had to, pick different multiple choice things and different sounds and so forth. And they determined that I had exceptionally high IQ, and so they put me in a different school that was across town. This was in San Diego, and they put me in a performing arts elementary school. So I think that there was enough going on in these tests to at least determine if somebody had certain gifts or proclivities. Maybe they felt my inner E-diva energy was coming forth, and they could see the potentiality of blossoming from the seed of an E-diva into an absolute Beyonce level diva. I mean, I think we all know that's where we're at over here on my channel. And when I was moved to the new school, it was a very different atmosphere. There's a lot of experimental types of educational techniques that they were doing. We did a lot of visualization. We did a lot of alternative art projects. We did a lot of classes that were basically just sitting and reading books all day. I had many of those. It started in fourth grade, I think, and then fifth grade, sixth grade. Those were all GATE program classes. And then I ended up moving. But I recall us studying some really weird stuff. We studied Beatles lyrics. I remember having a boomer teacher who was obsessed with the Beatles, which, I mean, I don't dislike the Beatles. It's just odd that you would have like fifth graders studying John Lennon lyrics and other just personal fancies, I guess, that she had. I remember her name, Mrs. Murphy Singer. She was my fifth grade teacher. And we read a lot of sort of forward-looking science fiction texts that were probably more advanced than our age group. And it was a small class. I think there was about maybe 20, 25 of us in there. And I was chosen out of the performing arts elementary school to go into a smaller group of people that were considered gifted amongst the gifted. I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that this is what happened, and this is my memory of these events. And I don't remember anything specifically odd about any of that either. It was just sort of like a future leaders program. Now, since that time, I've looked into the GATE program and what this was about. And my assessment is that it did have connections to UN projects, United Nations future leaders types of projects. No, I was not recruited by Klaus to be a future World Economic Forum leader. You will lead the bugs. No, none of that. But I do think it was intended to be a way to spot potential, future thought leaders, entertainment people, whatever. And you'll note that just the overall AI summary says that it was a program for students who had been identified and as gifted and talented. They were able to have tailored education techniques. Different schools probably did different things. They had a different type of learning experience, project-based learning. That's definitely something we did a lot of. I know we did a lot of performance art. We did a lot of crafting our own indigenous artwork. That was probably the weirdest part of the whole program. Was there seemed to be definitely a multi-cult sort of vibe going on, that it was sort of a initiation and processing for the future world socialist type of society that the UN openly envisions. If you read something like Julian Huxley's Philosophy of UNESCO type of book. If you read that book, when I remember when I read that and we lectured through that for the Global Elite series, it definitely has a UNESCO vibe. And if I remember some years back looking into the GATE program, and it definitely had many overlaps and probably funding and connections to UNESCO. It wasn't that dark per se, but it did have a new agey flavor. It did have a vibe of we're gonna have these. I mean, you could say maybe a Starseed kind of vibe, right? So essentially, I'm a hood healer. I burn a sage by the pound. Yoga chats jocking. Y'all know how it sounds. I'm a hood healer. But this actually wasn't. It was it was actually a multicultural, diverse group that was in my inner core group of the GATE program people. We had a lot of Filipinos, some black people, some couple white people, and I was one of the shining minorities in this situation because it was a predominantly Filipino school that I was at. So I know what it's like to be a minority. You're getting the minority report right here. Now, all of that to say, I don't think that this was a vast conspiracy of MK Ultra proportions. It was really just a kind of filtering out, profiling for potential future leaders. So that's my assessment of the GATE program. It is, to a degree, part of the global socialist order's projections and plans, but it's not any kind of deep MK Ultra multiple personality assassin type of thing. And I think that's a bunch of disinformation. If you enjoyed this video, be sure and head on over to choq.com, choq.com. That link is in the show description. You can head on over there, use the promo code JAY44Life. That's J44Life to get 44% off all those great products in the Choq store. And hurry on over there because we don't know how long that discount is going to last. We have a great rapport with them. They're a great company. They will give you the best in supplementation, and you don't have to keep that subscription. You can unsubscribe at any time. If you just want to test something out, you can use the promo code J40, that's JAY40, to get 40% off any of those great products. Be sure and like and share the video below because a lot of people are talking about the GATE program, and it is relevant to exposing in what ways sort of UNESCO has infiltrated the American education system to turn it into something more socialist oriented. That's the real root of this, not anything super sensational.